In this workshop we will start to look at some of the features of the ComfortClient main user interface. My name is Julian Wigman and I'm the principal developer. So let's start ComfortClient. On the left hand side of the screen you see the main workspace. It's a tabbed area. You can see at the moment we have a single tab for one floor plan. We can show floor plans, we can show browser windows. So if you have IP cameras you can show those in a window as well. Or you can show a website. Any information that's browser related you can show on a tab. On the right hand side of the screen we see at the top part we see a keypad, at the bottom part we see the control pad. The three buttons along the top here control the visibility of the control pad and the keypad. Blue indicates that they are visible. If I uncheck them you'll see that when they hide then that color changes as well. So as I turn both off, I can turn both on. So I have control over which ones are visible on screen. If I toggle the middle panel from both to one, you'll see it toggles one or the other, so it's a toggle function. I'll put both back. I can move the dividing line as well if I want to make more space. So if we start with the control pad at the bottom of the screen, the first tab that you see that's highlighted is the connection menu. We need to connect from ComfortClient to the UCM. By default you see it's done it automatically. That's one of the options that we can set. And you'll see it's chosen network. Let me just disconnect that for a second. It's chosen network, it's chosen these IP addresses and things because it's taken those from our CCLX file. At any time I can override those if I want to by checking these boxes next to each of the fields. So if I don't want to use network, I want to use USB or serial, I could uncheck that. If I don't want that local PC address, I can check it and pick a different one if there is one. If I don't want that destination port or IP address, I can check that box to change them as well. Generally you're going to use the settings that are in your CCLX file, but there are times maybe that you want to override that. So let me connect back again. You'll see by connecting that the sign-in code area enables, and also the keypad at the top of the screen. If I disconnect again you'll see that grays out. So I can either log in by putting my credentials in the bottom panel here in the user code field, or I can type them at the top of the screen. I'm using my test system for the purposes of this demonstration because I'm going to be arming the system and things. So I'm quite happy for you to see the password, which is the default 1234. So I can type 1, 2, 3, 4 in the keypad. If I want a backspace, if I made a mistake, I can press end and it'll clear that section out. So I can do it again, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I'm happy, press the enter button or press the UCM login down the bottom here, and I can then log on to the system.
User 1 sign in.
So as you hear there, sound is enabled. Down the bottom part of the screen here you'll see there's a little sound button.
Sound off. Sound on.
So I can toggle whether sound is enabled or not. The monitor window, the next tab across, is the same output that you would see in Configurator if you were to go into IO monitor there. I've color coded the output, so information that goes from ComfortClient to Comfort is shown in blue with a right chevron. Inbound traffic coming from Comfort is shown in red, and that's got a left chevron. Other information you'll see there from time to time colored differently as well. So system information comes in and shows in this teal color. If you have plugins enabled you'll see different colors as well. I can pause that monitor window because this is active. You'll see it's happening, it's changing all the time at the moment. If I want to pause that traffic I can press the pause button and it pauses the log file, so I can go and look at it. I can go off and press snap. I can go and look at the information in a static form that's come in so far. I can press save. If you have the OpenXML add-on installed, then you have the ability to output to Word. If you don't, then you'll just have these bottom two options here, which is WordPad and Notepad typically, or whatever editor that you have installed on your Windows machine. I can give it a name and save it, and you'll see that it will automatically open and display that in whatever editor that you've picked, in this case Word. So I can unpause my window, and you'll see it immediately filled in a lot of information very quickly. So anything that came in while it was paused is not lost. It will continue displaying that as well. You'll see this config item saved, auto save, just come up on screen. We automatically on a definable period define when it saves the configuration back to the configuration file. So from a disaster recovery, if you crash or whatever, you don't lose any of the settings. If I want to, I can clear this window. Over time it'll get quite long, so I can press the manual clear button. It will eventually wrap, so when it gets to a maximum size it will start to roll around. While inbound traffic is coming in, it's writing to an external log file as well. All of this information is being kept anyway, so you're not going to be losing that information. If I want to clear it, I can just press the clear button and it'll clear that window. As you see, it starts to come back again. One of the other things you'll notice, this command line at the top here, in a similar way that we can do this in Configurator, you can send a manual command off. So if I want to query one of the counters, counter 0, I can send that off to Comfort and it will come back and give me the response from that counter query. So if you're familiar with the Comfort protocol syntax and how you query things, then exactly that same syntax is used here. If you want to simulate an inbound traffic but without involving Comfort, if you hold down the Shift key and click in this main response area, it flips into this test response mode. And this allows me to simulate inbound traffic but without sending it to Comfort. So you see it has that test banner against it as well, which means that it's simulating what's coming in from Comfort but without having to trigger something in Comfort for that to happen. Great for testing. So hold down the Shift again, click the main workspace, and it goes back as well to where it was, normal mode. So that's there really for debugging and testing. The final thing that we'll see on this bottom panel is this funnel. This is for filtering. As you see there, you can filter information as per the pop-up there. Monitor panel, activity tabs, external log, status bar messages. If I double click on that, it brings up this window. This window we can get by going to the configuration settings as well, but here we can make changes to information that we display in various tabs. So if we've got too much information coming into this monitor window, then we can create a filter to filter out that traffic. It's pattern matching, so you can see here FL00300 coming in. If we wanted to filter that out, we could create a filter. I could say add filter. I could say filter flag 03. I could say, well, whenever FL03 comes in, I want to filter it out in the monitor window by checking that box. So this is for inbound. I can do it for outbound as well. So anything to do with FL03, flag 03, I could hide if I wanted to. So the monitor is really pattern matching. It's there to be able to reduce some of the otherwise information that would overload some of those different areas. So if I don't want flag 03 things to go out to the event log, then I can check the E1 there. Or if I don't want it to go to the activity log, and I'll mention what that is in a minute, then I can click that. Or even to the status bar, this area down the bottom of the screen. So you see flag 05 just popped up there. If I want to filter it out from appearing there, I can check the box here as well. Anytime I can go and delete these as well. Don't want them anymore. Okay, so that's generally filtering. You'll see filtering is not applied by virtue of that X there. When it is applied, you see a funnel there. Also, when filtering is in force, when it actually is filtering, you'll see this flicker. So you'll see that it's active and it's doing something. The bottom part of the screen here, by the way, you'll notice how we're seeing how long we're logged in. We'll see that we're connected. We'll see inbound messages popping up, outbound messages popping up in these two areas at the bottom of the screen. So that's the monitor window. Home control menu, very similar to what you'll see in Configurator, and drill into it. We've got hover text, so as you hover over these things, it'll give you information about what these things do. So here, this is linked to just a sample here of turning a light on or off by X10. So if I click on those, and then go back to my monitor window, you'll see it sent out the response that applies to that that home control menu item. If you have any status information, you'll see that displays next to the main node. So here I've set the status of the light to be shown here at the moment. So this would automatically show how you've configured it in Configurator. So there's no configuration needing to be done to set this up. It automatically will appear for you. Event log, we can go and fetch our event log, press the fetch button. I can abort that any time if it's a long one. You only want to see the first part, and you'll see it's bringing back information. Again, I'm color coding here to try and highlight some of the different types of activity you're seeing in the list.
Event log, red.
As you heard there, probably it will give you information as well through the sound system. Okay, so I can also click items and mark and do copy to clipboard by holding down the shift key or the control key. If I hold the control key down, I can individually mark things I want to export. Right click, and then I can copy to the clipboard or clear them all in one go. So always try things like right click, because there's features and functionality that are hidden behind those. This checkbox top left here is if I want to automatically fetch the event log as soon as I log in. Also press the save button, a bit like we were doing with Snapshot, where I can save the event log out to a file. So some features there for you to explore. Again, I can clear. Clear means clear this window. It does not mean clear the event log in Comfort. So just one area to clear up. I can press clear and it'll clear out that list. When I log out, it'll also clear that list for security as well. The final two things you'll see in the control pad here are Custom 1 and Custom 2. So these are really extensions of the home control menu. If I check, as you see at the moment, it's grayed out. If I drop down this list, I can pick one of from a potential list of some of the different types of UCM you may have connected to your system. So if I was to pick X10, and then you'll see this checkbox ungrazed. If I uncheck that checkbox, it then will look through all my responses that I have set up in my system that control X10 functionality. If I say, well, I want that one, and that one on the screen, and then uncheck the box, they now become things that I can click. So by clicking that, go back to my monitor window again, you'll see it centered out. So it's really a way of extending on the fly things that happen in the home control menu. So I've got two tabs where you can set that up, so you can have two of those defined. You want an X10 and a verbose one. Those settings get saved out via autosave out to your config file. So you see there when I click the box, nothing comes back. I've got no responses set up to use verbose on. Go to, what have I got any Z-Wave ones? Nope. Okay, so if it doesn't show anything, then I don't have any responses that contain that functionality. So largely that's the control pad. So let's switch to looking at the keypad at the top here. We already logged in through that keypad. The status icons at the bottom are an exact match for what happens on the real keypad in Comfort. The two checkboxes here are a way of defining how keypad entries values are sent back to the UCM. If we uncheck this key arm local, then we can simulate remote arm or local arm of the system. So generally we'll leave that set to local. Keypad emulation, if I was to check that and start typing on the keypad and look at my monitor window, you'll see I start to send real keypad keys back to UCM. So I'm simulating there what I would actually be doing on a real keypad, and you heard the beep there because that was obviously an invalid command. I'm masking the numbers press for security, so that if you look at an event log later, you couldn't use that, for example, to see a password. So key arm local, simulating real key presses on a real keypad. So let's look at the ARM system here. At the moment you'll see the system is unarmed, so we identify that by the red box around the icon on screen. So let's arm the system. To arm the system, we click the icon we want to arm. So this is full arm, this is night mode, this is day mode, this is vacation mode. We've got panic and we've got fire alarm here as well, which you can do through key presses on the Comfort main pad. I've put explicit buttons on here to be able to do that. Okay, so let's arm the system. Click the button.
System arm is OK. Exit delay 30 seconds.
So you'll see the exit delay shows at the bottom of the screen here in the bottom right hand, and you can see it's counting down. If I open my exit door, you'll see that it appears highlighted in red.
Zone 2 is open. Away mode user 1.
And now you'll see that I've entered away mode and the red box is moved down to the next area. So I've now armed the system, and you can see the arm LED as well on the keypad has gone to red. So let's disarm the system. So by triggering the entry door.
Entry alert zone 2 comfort state alert entry delay 30 seconds.
So you see the floor plan color changes and the entry alert information has come up in the panel. So I can either press this the top button here, which is disables,
Security off user 1.
or I could have disabled via the actual keypad. Let's try that again. Let's put it in day mode.
System arm is OK. Exit delay 5 seconds. Day mode user 1.
And you see we've now gone to day mode. I didn't have to use the exit path to trigger that at this stage. So let me turn it off with a physical keypad.
Security off user 1.
So that was using the actual keypad to turn the alarm off. So the other two buttons are fire alarm and panic alarm. They both do the same thing, but they send obviously different alerts out. So if you're linked to SMS messages, things like that, then those will trigger accordingly within Comfort. So let's generate a fire alarm.
Fire alarm comfort state alarm.
You'll see the alarm button flashing. You'll see obviously a lot of red on screen. We're using that to be very visible about what's happening with the system. Again, I can disable that by pressing the
Alarm abort security off user 1.
by either pressing the top button or by logging in with the keypad. Other scenario would be to let the system actually trigger the alarm through an unauthorized entry. Let's just set that up.
System arm is OK. Exit delay 5 seconds. Day mode user 1.
So this time we'll trigger an alarm without.
Entry alert zone 2 comfort state alert entry delay 30 seconds.
So I have 30 seconds set up here, so it's quite a long entry delay. As you see, it's counting down in the bottom right here.
Entry warning zone 2 comfort state alert intruder zone 2 comfort state alarm.
So hopefully that demonstrates some of the features of arming, disarming, triggering the system. Now we'll disable that.
Alarm abort security off user 1.
I'm going to turn sound off for a second just so that
Sound off.
So one of the other things that's quite common to want to do when you're using a system, maybe this is displayed on a tablet on the wall, you want to be able to lock that. So in the application menu here we have the ability to lock the UI. I can put a password on that, which I'd normally do. I won't for the purposes of doing this, but by selecting lock you'll see that everything greys out, so that all the menus apart from the application where you want to unlock greys out. It also shows in red, so I now no longer can do most of the things within the UI. We leave the panic button enabled, the fire alarm enabled, because that's something that may be still valid to be able to do when it's locked. Typical example of this, for example, you might have a cleaner and you don't want the cleaner starting to mess around with your touchpad. So we can lock the screen. We can unlock by putting in our password again, and it'll unlock the screen. So we can also use some, while we're in this application menu, let's look at some of the other features we've got. We can force the system to refresh. So when I logged in, it automatically refreshed for me, but if I want to force that refresh again, I can press that refresh button. I can turn sound on and off from this.
Sound on. Sound off.
So I can turn sound on or off from that menu as well. I can print whatever is showing on screen for that particular tab at any time. So if I want to show what's on this active screen, I can press print preview and it'll bring up that screen. Any changes to the floor plan that Comfort has changed, doors open, those sort of things, sensor values, light settings, all of those things would be displayed in the print. So it's active print. Scan is there are two parts to this. When you have multiple tabs, you can set the system up so that it automatically cycles through each screen after a set period of time. We're going to come back and look at this feature when we look at some of the configuration items in this middle settings panel here. So there's a lot of information here that we need to go through in terms of configuration. Let's finish off with this workshop, this part 1 workshop, by looking at the information screen. At the top we have the help menu. So this is the help system for ComfortClient. I strongly advise you to read this. It gives you a lot of information that I'm probably not going to cover in detail today about how to use the product. A link will take us off to the ComfortClient area on the forum, where new versions are published, information about releases, help information. All things ComfortClient are shown in this area of the forum. ShapeMe is the online help system. If I was to click this button, it will go online and it will show me requests and comments I've added to existing requests that I've logged in the system. So I could press new request, I could give it a name here, put in some information, press submit. As soon as I type in the fields, the submit button ungrows, or I can cancel out of that. So I can create a new request, send it to Comfort. So I'm using that for things like logging enhancement requests. I want a new icon in Shape Factory. It may be I found a bug, and as I've shown here, that I need to fix. So you can create requests for various reasons, and I will respond to those. I am notified when those responses come in. Either myself as the developer or yourselves, you can enter comments. So as we go through the life cycle of those requests, you'll see the status change here as I change it or you change it. You'll also see things that you add to it appear in what we call the action track, the top right here. So if I was to click on some of these, I don't know if there are any, yeah, you'll see there's a comment added. So as I click on those again, you'll see information that is put against a particular request. So we'll come back on a later session and look at this in more detail. So that's ShapeMe. Comfort System Info will interrogate Comfort for what UCMs you've got installed, and you'll see at the moment it's red on screen and saying refreshing. You'll see in the monitor window there it's interrogating the UCMs. It's also for any UCMs that are found, it then interrogates for serial numbers of those UCMs, and you'll see the serial numbers come back as well. So when we look at the finished results, you'll see some is green and some is red. The information that's red on screen is the information that was extracted from the CCLX file. Green information is information that came back from Comfort. So you can distinguish between live information and static information that's in the CCLX file. So you'll see this for this door station. This door station doesn't support version information, so it's unknown. So we would replicate what comes back from Comfort commands that we've sent to it to interrogate it. Again, I can save that information off to an external file if I want to keep for future reference. Press the save button, similar sort of information that we've seen before. I can save it and it'll open on screen. Okay, so that's system information. Again, I can go back at any time and do that. I can only obviously refresh that information when I'm logged in, so it'll grey out when I'm not logged in. Object Matrix is a feature that I've added to allow you to look at the status of all different types of object within the Comfort environment. So I can drop down this list here. I can look at all flags, I can look at all zones, I can look at all sensors. This is real-time information, so instead of having to individually send out a command to Comfort to get back status of what the Comfort a counter is or a flag is, you can look in this single place for information. This automatically builds when you log in, so there's nothing you have to do to build this. Over on the right hand side here you'll see some information, so two little buttons here. So one, I can display monitor, so I can see for incoming traffic of type sensor the information that's coming in real time. So if I was to switch to zone, you'll see as I click that, you'll see that zone changes and that information changes. You'll also see as I'm changing that information, it's changing on the screen as well. So you'll see it go red and then it disappears again. So that's great, I can do that. So I can see this incoming traffic. I can also go in and change some options. So I can stay on top, so it'll also always stay on top of other windows. So at the moment it's behind, but if I click stay on top, it will always be on top. I can show, instead of showing in decimal as I'm showing here, I can click to show in hex. So if you prefer to work in hex, then you can do that as well. You'll see here there's a lot of zeros on the screen. It's sometimes difficult to see the width of the trees, so if we suppress zeros, you'll just see information when it changes from 0. So as you see there, I'm changing, goes to 1 and then it goes back to 0 and hides again. Well, that's great, it's hidden. But if I want to show whether it's ever triggered at all since I logged in, if I do show updated, then you'll see it's gone blue. So even though it's now 0 and I've suppressed it, I can see that originally it did hold a value. So that's a great way again of seeing at an immediate glance things that have changed, even though that they may be back to 0 at the moment. As you probably saw, if I hover over any of these things, it'll give me information about them. So it'll tell me what the number of the zone is here. It'll tell me what the maximum min values have been so far and what the current value is, and how many times it's changed since I last logged in and when it last changed. So there's a lot of information there that we can do. Let's hide that. When I exit, it asks me whether I want to update my default settings to include the checkboxes I've just checked. So if I say yes to that, next time I go in or next time I start ComfortClient, they'll be checked again. As you see, when I go back in, it remembers the state. If I switch between different areas, it still remembers the state. So sensors, you'll see there, this sensor is showing outside temperature of 19. So great for taking a view about what your current state of your current system is. Also great for things like walk tests. If you're a reseller and you're installing the system for the first time, you can walk around with your laptop with this showing on screen, and as you walk around you'll see these things trigger. You'll see information coming in. So as any information comes in from the monitor windows, then you'll see that updating on screen automatically. What I can do is I can click on a cell. If I double click on a cell, it puts a red box around it which highlights that cell. You can see a selected count at the bottom of the screen, so I can mark another cell, it selects 2. I can block mark a cell by just dragging the cursor. So click the cursor in a cell, hold down the left mouse button and drag, and that's what we call rubber banding. Release, it will highlight those cells. Once those cells are highlighted, if I right click, I can do different things again. So I can right click and select a cell by saying select object. Right click, select object. Once I've right clicked, I can clear all again, so I'll clear all selected. Or let's double click that one again. If I want to change the value of that cell, I can right click and say set value. Set value, I want to set the value of that to 3. So that's actually going to send a value out to Comfort. If I go and look at the monitor log in a minute, you would see that I'd sent that to Comfort. Let's set a counter, shall we? So let's switch to counters. click a counter. I want to set both of those, so they've now been set. So you can set counter values in Comfort through the object matrix. You can see again, hovering over them, you'll see that the maximum value is 3 if you look there. If I was to clear all selected, just click that one again, set value, and this time I'll set it to 8. Hover over again, you'll see there's been the maximum value is now 8. So come back to Object Matrix anytime. You can see a lot about how your Comfort system is working. You also probably noticed we can save to file. It's a common theme here, so I can browse to where I want to save the file. I'm going to save it here, and I can decide what I want to output. So I want to output only these 2 object types, 3 object types, and only selected values that have changed. And it'll output that information for me. So you'll see there's no output or zone changes happened in that period. So that's the object matrix. Other things we've got on the menu, we can go and check for updates. So you can see I'm on the latest release. If updates are advertised by me, when you go into ComfortClient, you will see a box appear up on the top menu bar, and that will display there's a possible update. You can then use the check for updates to go and retrieve the update and load. So if an update is found, it'll ask you if you want to download it. License management, that allows you to apply a license key at any time or go and buy a license key if you're in trial mode. We went through part of this when we did the installation workshop. You can look at the license agreement if you want to go back to that for any reason. You can check the version history, so it will go off to the version history Word file, and it will show what happened in this last release. I like Word when we do this because you can actually click on the different tabs on the left hand side here to switch back to previous versions to see what happened. Finally, there's the About box, which obviously tells you which version of the product you're running on at the moment. Okay, we'll cover more on functionality in a future workshop.